So thanks for the opportunity for sharing the latest changes in the Companies Act 2013. Companies Act 2013. So all we are aware, the recent times, the Companies Act changing every day. Like earlier, only the SEBI will be changing like this. Every day there will be some circular notification, amendment rules like that. Now the Companies Act started. Every day you'll see some amendment notification circular. I don't know when this Companies Act is going to settle, but it will take some time to settle down. Still another company's bill also in place. So maybe another couple of years, I think it will be settled down once these all issues are over. But as a professional, as a these either company secretaries or a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, so we should be on familiar with these changes made in the Companies Act and respective rules. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to handle these issues. As we are aware, the government nowadays is concentrating more on the compliances. Ultimately, the clients is depending the professionals only. So we should be in a position to advise them, the client properly, to ensure that there are statutory compliances in place. So let me start some changes which is brought in the Companies Act Amendment, Companies Amendment Act 2019 first. After that, there were some circulars were issued by the ministry for the amendment. I don't know how much time I will take it, sir. How much time I will take it, sir?
7 o'clock, sir.
7. Okay.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yes, maybe. Yeah. Law will take 2 hours. It's very difficult, but I try to justify that. Please try to listen. Yes, sir. Navaneethan Prakash, do you want to say anything? So let me start the Companies Amendment Act first, 2019. The objectives of the Companies Amendment Act 2019 is to declassing the NCLT. There are certain powers with the NCLT being transferred to the central government, that is the regional directors. So all we are aware, after the introduction of IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, the NCLT is filled up with a lot of cases under IBC. It is very difficult for them to take the cases which comes under the Companies Act. Even the two benches are sitting in the NCLT. Very rarely time is given. The cases comes under the Companies Act. Now we are aware. Past 3-4 months there was no cases has taken place. So this some powers have been shifted to the regional directors, and also some offences in the Companies Act has been decriminalized. So the government ultimately wants that the compliances and also the punishment and penalties to be rationalized, to reduced, to enable the corporate to have the ease of doing business. That is the intention. They have recategorization of their amendment, and also some CSR activities. Some clarifications were issued with respect to CSR activities. So I have classified into this amendment the declassing the NCLT 2 subsection 4114, 441 CSR, significant beneficial ownership, registration of charges, powers of registrar, disqualification of directors, some changes in NAFRA, some changes in prospectus and allotment of shares, investigation by SIFO, the oppression and mismanagement, some categorization of offences and other provisions I have classified into this. As I said, declassing the NCLT, the powers which has been transferred to the central government with respect to Section 2, subsection 41, the financial year, the change in financial year. So we all aware that the Companies Act is aligned in line with the Income Tax Act. So the financial year should be the April to 31st March. If the company follows different financial year, maybe calendar year as a financial year, so they should change their calendar year into financial year. But there were some exemptions given in the Companies Act that if the company is incorporated on 1st January, then the financial year can be followed from 1st January to next 31st March in the following year. Then the next financial year onwards, they can follow the uniform financial year from 1st April to 31st March. Suppose if the company having subsidiaries and if the subsidiary is following different financial years, when there is a requirement to consolidate the subsidiary companies balance sheet, so there were some difficulties are faced, particularly by MNC companies. So that is the case where the companies can file an application before the National Company Law Tribunal for having to follow the different financial year. Now that power has been transferred to the central government, that is regional directors, for following the different financial year. So that is one change which is brought in the Companies Amendment Act 2019. The other one, Section 14, all we are aware, the conversion of public company into private company. So the private to public, there is no restriction subject to approval of board and shareholder, it can be done. But vice versa, the public to private needs an approval from the tribunal earlier. Now that power has been transferred to the regional director, central government, that power has been delegated to the regional directors, and NCLT requested to dispose all pending cases with them. And another one is the compounding of offences, 441. We are aware that the compounding for more than 5 lakhs rupees, the offences which having more than 5 lakhs, that needs to be compounded only with the subject to approval of the National Company Law Tribunal, NCLT. So now the amount has been increased to up to 25 lakhs. So the penalty up to 25 lakhs that can be compounded by regional directors himself. There is no need to go to NCLT. But we are all aware that the offences punishable with imprisonment or imprisonment and the fine cannot be compounded by the RD. But that provision is still there. But only thing that limit is 5 lakhs been increased to 25 lakhs. So these three provisions are in place, transferring the powers with the NCLT to the regional director. That's with respect to 241 and 14 and 441. With respect to CSR, corporate social responsibilities, all we are aware that under section 135, certain company needs to comply the CSR. If the company having the net worth more than 500 crore or turnover more than 1000 crore or net profit more than 5 crore, they should spend at least 2% of the average net profit immediately 3 preceding financial year towards CSR activities, which is specified in Schedule 7 of the Act. So there is a change which brought in under 135 that when the company has not completed 3 years from the date of incorporation, so the net profit should be taken from the immediate preceding financial year. That is inserted in the Companies Act 2019. But also some provisions were inserted under 135, but this provision is kept on hold, is yet to be notified with respect to CSR is concerned. So there were some objections from the industrial as well as the opposite party. That provision is still kept on hold, is yet to be notified. So when the company is not able to spend the CSR amount, the company has to open a separate account. That unspent CSR amount has to be transferred to separate account within 30 days from the date of financial year, from the end of financial year. From the account, within 3 years, that amount should be utilized for CSR activity. If it is not utilized, that amount has to be transferred to a fund specified in Schedule 7 within 30 days from the end of financial year. So these provisions is yet to be notified, but for the academic interest, we need to keep that even in the company's bill 2020 also, there is some provision put in place with respect to CSR is concerned. Up to certain limit, there is no need to form a CSR committee, and if any excess amount spent towards CSR activities from the previous years, that can be set off against the current year. These are all provisions were introduced in the company's bill 2020. The bill has been placed before the parliament, but yet to come it has to take long way. But as on today, there is no such provisions in the Companies Act 2019. Suppose if the company fails to comply these provision under 135, the company shall be punishable with a fine which shall not be less than 50,000, which may extend to 25 lakhs for a company. And officer who is in default, the fine shall not be less than 50, may extend to 5 lakhs. And also the imprisonment for the term up to 3 years, or both imprisonment as well as fine. So that is because of this provision only, this amendment put on hold, because a lot of objections from the opposite parties where, because the CSR is a social element where it is normally, it is not a mandatory, it is a discretionary, it is an optional for the company to spend for the CSR activity. When the company is not able to spend the amount, maybe due to various reasons, company may plan for expansion or company have different issues. The company, they might have to spend the amount for various activities. So because of non-compliance, for imposing the imprisonment or fine is such a huge fine, it is not the good as a corporate is concerned. That is where the government is thought of. Even this was mentioned by our Honorable Corporate Affairs Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, in the Parliament also while discussing, debating the company's amendment bill 2019 also. So that is where this put on hold. The other changes brought in the register of significant beneficial ownership in the company. So all we are aware that facing difficulties also, filing form Ben 1, Ben 2, Ben 3, Ben 4, all maybe you might have across various issues. Earlier, the directors' duty to disclose their interest in the company. Upon intimation, the company has to file a form with the register of companies. Suppose when the directors have not disclosed their interest, then the company has to intimate to the directors, concerned director, about to disclose their interest. Then the directors have to disclose, and the disclosure has to be filed with the register of companies. Now, earlier the responsibility is with the director. Suppose if the director is disclosed, only the company has to file the bens with the register of companies. But now the responsibility is put on the company. So the company has to take necessary steps to identify an individual who is a significant beneficial owner in relation to the company and require them to comply the provisions. So if the information is not provided from the individual within specified time, that is 30 days, or if the information is not satisfactory, if the company felt that the information is given by the director by way of disclosure is not satisfactory, then the company has to file an application with the NCLT directing to restrict the rights of shares of such person or director. Upon receipt of a petition or application from the company, the NCLT will serve a notice to the concerned directors. The opportunity will be heard before passing an order with respect to restriction of voting rights of the shares of the person who is holding in the company. The decision should be taken within 60 days. And also, if a person is not satisfied or aggrieved by an order of the tribunal, he can file an appeal within 1 year. Within 1 year. Otherwise, he can't prefer an appeal. That order still holds good. He has to face the consequences. So, this provision is concerned with respect to declaration of beneficial ownership. Now, what is the change which is brought in the Companies Amendment Act 2019 is the getting declaration, the responsibility falls in the hands of the company. Company means the company and also the officer who is in default. Who is an officer in default? The managing director the company is having, or whole-time director, or executive director, or KMP if the company is having. If a company doesn't have a KMP, all the directors will comes into place. So what we need to institute, every directors have to make their declaration. If not, if any director have not made a declaration, we have to get a declaration, or we have to send a formal notice to him to disclose the beneficial interest. Suppose if they disclosed when one, and if we found that some information is not mentioned in the declaration or hidden some informations, then we need to ask them to give a detail. If they have not given a detail, then it is the responsibility for the company to make an application with NCLT. So all we are aware that why this concept was put in place to identify the real owners of the company. Why this government is more focusing on this? The government has experienced a lot of shell companies and fake companies were created by the various parties. So to know, identify the person who are all the real owners of the company. That is the intention behind for introducing these provisions. So we need to ensure that these forms are filed in time. The another important change which we have to note under section 77 is that charges, filing the charges. CHG 1, normally we will be filing for creation or modification of charges. CHG 4 is for satisfaction, CHG 9 for in case of debenture is issued. Normally, the charge, once charge is created, it has to be filed within 30 days from the date of creation or modification of charges. Earlier, up to 300 days time were given with the additional fees. And if the registration is not made within 300 days, then the company has to make an application with the regional directors for condonation of delay by filing CAG 8. That is where we are doing the provisions earlier. Now, the time period is restricted. So the charge has to be created or modification has to be created within 30 days from the date of creation, with another 30 days with an additional fee, with another 60 days by paying some ad valorem fees. It is depends upon the amount of charge involved. So totally the 60 plus 60, 120 days only is allowed for creation or modification of charges. Earlier it was 300 days, now it's come down to only 120 days. No, there is no extension, there is no condonation. Within that period it has to be filed. So the consequences is non-filing the charges. It is the responsibility falls on the company. Who has to file the charge? The company has to file the charge. Suppose if the company fails to file the charge, even the lender, the charge holder is having right to file the charge, and whatever expenses incurred, they can have the right to claim. That is also there, but the essential responsibility is falls on the company to file this charge within this period. But with respect to satisfaction is concerned, there is no change. That can be filed within 30 days and also subject to 300 days with an additional fee that is continued, that has not been touched with respect to satisfaction of charge is concerned. So this restriction is only for creation or modification of charges. And also, we are aware the recent, due to this COVID-19, some relaxation is given for filing the charges. The period from 1/3/2022, 30th September is excluded for the calculation of that period. So from 1st March 2022 30th September. This period will not be counted, for calculation of that period. Whatever, no, the 120 days or 60 days, whatever period, this period will be excluded. See, the charge is created before 1/3/2020, but the timeline for filing such form are not expired as on 1st March 2020. Then the period from 1st March to 30th September will not be counted. The day counted only from 1st October only. So that 120 days will be taken from 1st October onwards. So simply we can say that the period from 1st March to 30th September is exempted for counting due to this COVID situation. That we need to take note with respect to charges is concerned. Maybe we might have across various difficulties in the charges filing, particularly with respect to the bankers. No, even we come across, even we send the forms after duly filled. The banks for the responding time with the banks it take considerable time. Some banks they don't have the power to affix the digital signatures. They will send it to the zonal office or central office or regional office, and they have to send with supportive documents. So their officers, there is a lot of depending. But whatever the case may be, but the responsibility is falls on the company to file the charges. But we need to follow that charges. This is again some modification is made with respect to punishment for not filing the charges or giving false information. This has been added in 86. If any person willfully furnishes any false or incorrect information or knowingly suppresses any information in the form CHE1 or CHE9, which is required to be filed, then he shall be liable for action under 447. 447 speaks the fraud, punishment for fraud. There is a huge penalty is there. As a professionals, we have to certify these forms. So we need to ensure that the form is properly filled, proper attachment is made, the content which is specified in the forms matching with the attachment. So we need to check the attachment as well as the content of the form before affixing our digital signature. That we need to take as a professional point of view, we need to take care. And also the rectification of charges also, if there is any omission or commission in the charges, it can be rectified, but it cannot be rectified beyond that 120 days. Within 120 days, if there is any omission or statement or misstatement in the particulars already filed with the registrar, that can be rectified with the consent or approval of the regional directors, with the approval of the regional director. But subject to, we have to CLE, but now in the different set of form that has been reintroduced in the Companies Amendment Act 2019 under Section 10A. 10A. So the company have to file a declaration before commencement of business. Any company incorporated after 2/11/2018 and having share capital shall not commence business or exercise borrowing power unless the declaration to be filed in Form INC 20A within 180 days from the date of incorporation. So this form needs to be certified by a professional also. So while certifying this form, what we need to ensure that whether the company has received subscription money which is specified in the memorandum of association. Whatever the monies the subscribers in the memorandum have received in the company's bank account. So we need to insist the company to produce the bank account. We have to ensure that the respective shares amount has come into the company's account on the date within 180 days. Then that we need to get a statement certified by the bank as well as the company directors before certifying INC 20A for our records. Otherwise, if there is any default or if there is any misstatement or untrue statement in the form, so the consequences will follow not only for a director as well as the professional who certify the forms also. So that we need to take care. The declarations have to be filed. So this is the good thing, one welcome move which is brought in. Even today, there are a lot of companies have not brought their subscription amount. Somewhere maybe they will incorporate the company. Maybe the project gets time, or some part of the bringing capital gets time, or they will have some different objective, different time. They will put on hold for some time to commence the business. So they are not aware. But after some time, they will come after 1 year or 1.5 years. Then they will come back again when they're starting the company. They want to file a balance sheet or something. They have to do everything. Then there is a difficulty will comes into place. So as a professional, what I know, they urge you all that when the company is incorporated, we must insist on clients that whatever the amount subscribed in the memorandum, that has to comes into company's account. That we need to take care. And also the registered office. Within 30 days, the company has to file INC 22. It is not mandatory that at the time of incorporation, INC 22 needs to be filed. While filing the SPICE form or the Agile, no need to file INC 22, but it should be filed within 30 days of the incorporation. If the company fails to comply these provisions, the penalty under 10A is that for a company is liable for 50,000 penalty, and the officer who is in default, 1,000 rupees for every day during which default continues, and it shall not exceed 1 lakh rupees. That is the consequences where the company, if the subscribers fails to bring into the money. What will happen if they fails to bring into that? Then naturally they have to go for a compounding of offences before the regional directors. And also, when the company has not filed a declaration under 20A, the registrar is having power to remove the company from the register. So registrar of companies is empowered to remove the company from the register if the company fails to file this declaration within 180 days, or if the registrar is believed that the company is not carrying on any business or operation, he may initiate action for removal of the company from the register. So registrar also is having power to inspect the company. While inspection, or if the register of company is sending letter by a registered post, if the registered letter is returned back, then the registrar may reason to believe that the company doesn't have any business, so he may have the power to strike up the company from the register. So as we are aware that the company has to maintain a registered office, and I told that every company in front of the registered office, the name of the company and address, English as well as the regional languages, with the SIN number, all GST number, all needs to be put in place in front of the registered office. So otherwise, the penalty, the consequences is that the registrar is having power to remove the name of the company apart from the penalty specified on these provisions. The other one provisions, which important provision which we have to note, the disqualification of director. We all know section 164 talks disqualification of director. Certain circumstances, situation, the directors are disqualified. One new circumstances added in the Companies Amendment Act is that if a person is not complied with the provision of section 165, subsection 1, what 165(1) says. If a person acting directorship for more than 20 companies, including alternate directorship, then he will be disqualified under section 164. So a person can act as a director in the company for maximum of 20 companies. Out of 20, he can have a directorship in a public company, 10 companies. So literally, a person cannot be a director in more than 10 public limited company. The total directorship should not exceed 20 companies, including alternate directorship. If he holds a positions for more than 10 in case of public or 20 in case of total strength, then his position will be disqualified under section 164. That we need to make note of this provision 164. In 132 also there is some changes with respect to Constitution of National Financial Reporting Authority, NAFRA. We are all aware that the NAFRA already in place, the constitution already been done, the executive is all taken in place, they have started in operations. So this is ultimately is like our disciplinary mechanism which in place for all our professional institute. It's like a different statutory body handling the disciplinary cases against the professionals. But initially it is for the the listed companies and other companies, but it will be extended to other companies also. Recently, you might have aware that there is a form NAFRA 1, NAFRA 2, all were introduced. Though the NAFRA 1 is not applicable for the company which is incorporated in India, it's only for the company incorporated outside India. When the company is having subsidiary, only needs to file NAFRA 1. When the company is filing ADT 1 with respect to, there is no need to file a NAFRA 1 because all the data are captured from ADT 1 itself. So what provisions were added in the Companies Amendment Act is that 132 1A. So NAFRA shall function through such division as may be prescribed. So it will have the chairman and full-time member all occupied. 132 3B says that executive body and NAFRA consisting chairperson and a full-time member sharing the divisions. Earlier, the NAFRA is having power to debar a member or firm from engaging the practice as a member of ICA for a minimum period of 6 months and up to maximum 10 years as stated as decided by NAFRA. Now, the slight change in the provision 132 subsection 4, debar a member or a firm of being appointed as an auditor. So there were added internal auditor or valuer are added in the Companies Amendment Act 2019. So internal auditor as well as valuer, registered valuer also added under these provisions. So they are also comes under this jurisdiction of NAFRA. If there is the NAFRA, the authority is having the levy or debar the member from minimum 6 months to 10 years. So depends upon the case, depends upon the merits of the case. So the provision, what change would I would like to highlight is earlier only member or firm of engaging in practice. Instead of that, an auditor or internal auditor or valuer under section 247 is being added under this provision that we need to take note. The other one change under section 29, the offer of securities, the allotment of shares. As we are know, apart from listed companies, some unlisted public companies also have to issue shares only in demat mode only, dematerialization. So demat is mandatory for all public companies. As on today, still there is no provisions is inserted with respect to private limited companies concerned. But already amendment is made in the Companies Act. Anytime the government may comes by amending the rules to prescribe the private limited company also comes under this bracket. But I don't think present situation it will comes into place. But we have to take note that so public company apart from listed company unlisted public company also have to issue shares or transfer or transmission, whatever it is, only in demat mode only. So to demat, we need to engage the depository for having the demat. The company shares first have to be dematted. The company have to approach the RTA or the DPs, and the respective shareholders also should have a demat account, or the company has to insist the shareholders to uh, have a demat account and inform the demat account to the company to enable the company to transfer the shares electronically to their respective demat account. That the change which we need to take note on with respect to the allotment of shares is concerned under 29. The total, the investigation by SFIO, again, so when there is an inspection and investigation by the registrar of companies or inspecting officers from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, they have the power to arrest the person if there is any offense is committed. So there the change is that the officer to the power to arrest a person found guilty of offence punishable under this section has been changed to any officer not below the rank of assistant director. So if any offence is committed, if any officer wants to arrest the person, the officer should not be the rank below the assistant director. That's the change which brought into the courts. Apart from this, the person is arrested by the officer, assistant director, or the more category. The person has to be produced before the magistrate court earlier. Now it was changed to special court or magistrate court because the special court is established under the Companies Act. Hence, the change has put in place. The person has to be within 24 hours from the time of arrest, has to be produced before the special court or magistrate court. The time taken from the place of person arrest to the court, that can be excluded, but the 24 hours that person has to be produced before the court. And also the government in the 241, there is a change, there is a small change with respect to oppression and mismanagement. So we are well aware that this 241 is one important section where a lot of cases are referring before the NCLT, again the oppression and mismanagement. Here, apart from this, the company shareholders are the directors. When there is a dispute among the shareholders or the directors, or person who is holding more than 10% of shares in the company or 100 members of the company, or when the company doesn't have a share capital, then 1/5 of the members have a right to approach the National Company Law Tribunal in case of oppression or mismanagement. So it is the right available to the minority shareholder. It is a protection available to the minority shareholders to protect against their right, apart from to protect in case of any oppression or mismanagement take place in the company. Apart from this, the register of companies can file an application to the tribunal in case of relief under the oppression or mismanagement. So the regional directors regional directors, the power, central government, that is power delegated to the regional directors, shall request the NCLT to inquire the case before the NCLT in case any case against the persons or any grounds exist that person, whether the person is fit and proper person to hold the office of the company. So if any person concerned in the conduct and management of affairs of the company or in connection with guilty of fraud or misfeasance or negligence in carrying out the business, or the business is managed if business is not managed in accordance with the business principle, or if the business is managed to defraud its creditor, if there is any serious injury to the trade or industry, then the register of companies is having power to file an applications to the NCLT to declare, to judge the person whether the person who's managing the business is fit and proper person. And simultaneously, the NCLT, upon receipt of the complaint from the central government, the copy will be served upon the directors, and also the government has to submit a statement and circumstances which feels that necessity for an inquiry or to judge the person is fit and proper person before the NCLT. Then the NCLT, after hearing the case, if comes to the conclusion that whether the person is fit and proper person, the NCLT will pass an order. That order will be circulated to the company as well as the register of companies. Then the persons will be prohibited or restricted to act as a director in the company. So if NCLT judges that if a person is not fit and proper person, then he should not hold office as a director for a period of 5 years. However, the central government can, with the subject to approval of the NCLT, they can allow the person to hold the office before the expiry of 5 years if the government feels that if that offence is rectified. During such period, the person who is removed from the company is not entitled to pay any remuneration or loss of pay for their service to the company. So this is only small change, but just we need to take a note on this. And also as I said earlier, there were a lot of offences. One of the important aspect in the company's amendment act 2019 is that the terminology, all fine has been changed to penalty. That everywhere, wherever the fine is specified, the term has been changed to penalty. And also some, the reductions in fine also. And also, a lot of provisions are decriminalized. Lot of offences is punishable with imprisonment have been removed, as I said earlier, for doing the ease of doing business. So these are all the steps being taken to recategorization of offence or decriminalization of offence with respect to issue of shares at a discount. Normally, the company is prohibited to issue shares at a discount. Prohibited. If the company does, there is a imprisonment was earlier. Now the imprisonment has been removed. Only penalty in place. And 64 fails to file the SH7, fails to file the balance sheet and annual return, fails to attach the explanatory statement while filing the MGT 14, the declaration with respect to proceeds, and if the company fails to file the resolution which is passed by the board or shareholder under 117, and failed to file the report of general meeting with the register of companies, and fails to intimate the resignation of auditor under 140 by filing ADT 3, fails to inform the DIN to the ROC. These are all the where some offences which the terminology has been changed from the fine to penalty. As I said in the 447, the fraud, apart from the amount punishable with the provisions, the earlier it was 25 lakhs, the fine, imprisonment or fine, and fine which must extend to 25 lakhs or both has got increased to 50 lakhs if there is punishment for fraud under 447. And also one more provision inserted under 2019 Act. Suppose that a company or a person already in guilty of fraud repeat the same within 3 years. If a person is already committed a default, if the default is committed within 3 years, again from the date of earlier offence, then he shall be, the fine will be the twice to the penalty. If he committed the default within 3 years period for the respective offences, then the fine will be twice the amount of penalty as specified. These new sections were introduced in 2019 under 454A. So the person should not repeat the default once he committed the default within 3 years. Otherwise, the punishment, the penalty will be twice. So after 3 years, it is there for compounding also. Even that within 3 years, he can't go for compounding also. That restriction also in place for these provisions. And also there were some changes in the adjudication of penalties. Aware that the register of companies is having power to adjudicate the penalty when there is a non-compliance where the officer who is in default earlier that has been changed to the company officer who is in default or any other person. So only the change is the any other person is added. In this 454 is concerned, there is not more than that. So this is with respect to some important changes in the Amendment Act 2019 is concerned. And I would like to take through some of the recent circulars which is issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in the Companies Act 2013. The one important change is that earlier we all know the Company Law Settlement Scheme, CLSS. There was an opportunity given to defaulting companies to file their returns. So a lot of requests have been made to the ministry, a lot of representations were gone to the ministry to have such a scheme again, like a company law settlement scheme, to rectify the default because the fines and penalties in the Companies Act are very huge. Apart from every day 100 rupees, if you take it, it goes to lakhs and lakhs of rupees. So when the company is finding difficult to carry on business, difficult to make a profit, then naturally it is difficult to make the compliances also as compared to other type of entity. So in case of the proprietary concern or partnership, there is no such kind of restriction. Then because of these, the huge volume of penalties, the lot of entrepreneurs were shifted from the mindset of company into again going back to the old version, the proprietary concern or partnership. Even you might have agreed with me that we are advised to some point of time that going for a partnership for a proprietary concern instead of going for a private limited company. Even sometimes we suggested the LLP, but again LLP also the same set of provisions were put in place that if the LLP fails to file their return financial statement, again it's a meter, 100 rupees per day it takes place. So that is so. Why ultimately the government wants that the compliances when the entrepreneur is starting the company, so there should be some transparency and compliances. So the advantage is having the company as a private limited or LLP is to have enjoy the limited liability and separate legal entity concept. At the same time, the government want transparency in filing this. That is where so much of restrictions were put in place. And sometimes we are aware that the lot of companies were struck off from the registers without some companies intimations were given. Some companies even without intimation, a lot of companies were struck off from the registers, non-filing companies, and also the directors who have in the struck off companies also the ultimately disqualified under 164 to act as a director for 5 years. The list has been hosted in the website. The directors are finding a lot of difficulties in continuing the directorship in other company and a lot of difficulty in forming a new company because they can't go for forming a new company and they have to remove the disqualifications. A lot of practical difficulties. To remove the disqualification, first they have to restore the company and they have to file the return up to date and they have to strike up the company or they don't want to continue the business or they can continue the business. Again, they got to go to the High Court for the filing a writ petition to take the interim stay from the High Court, then the order has to be filed with the registrar to remove the disqualification, to continue the directorship. So there are a lot of the issues were there with respect to the compliances and the filing is concerned. But considering these all aspects, from the ministry comes out with the company's Fresh Start Scheme, CFSS 2020. The opportunity is given to defaulting companies to enable them to file belated document under company's Fresh Start Scheme 2020. So this is a huge opportunity for the company, those who have not filed their balance sheet and those who a company have not struck up the companies from the register. That is the one itch is there for all, we all know. Practically, a lot of companies have not struck up due to when there is a charge is pending in the MCA portal, the registrar of companies is not able to struck up the companies. Now the opportunity for these companies can file up to date all these returns. Otherwise, when the company is struck up from the registers, they can't file the return. They have to restore the company first by filing a petition before NCLT. It takes time. Then only they can able to file. But other companies, they can use this scheme by filing a fees because they can avoid huge penalties for filing this balance sheet. So this is for all defaulting companies is permitted to file these documents. Once the filing is done under this provision in invoking that CFSS 2020, it is an immunity available from the prosecution, from the MCA. So there is a protection available for non-compliances of earlier offences. For non-filing, the protection is available. The registrar or the MCA will issue a certificate for the immunity, and also whatever the cases which is pending, that can be withdrawn if the company has filed any case against the MCA or registrar authority, that has to be withdrawn before invoking this. And also the MCA also will withdraw the application such cases. And also the form CFSS 2020 will be introduced to get the immunity certificate. Once the documents are filed with the registrar, then the immunity certificate will be issued. This form will be issued. The certificate will be automatically generated in online. There is no fee for this form CFSS 2020. But this case is, the CFSS scheme is not available for certain companies. If already matter is pending, the matter is pending before the court, if any order is already passed by the adjudicating authority, so they can't use this scheme. And also, the companies against filing. One second. The companies against which action for final notice for strike off the name under 248 is already initiated by the ROC. Suppose if the ROC already issued a notice under 248, then this company cannot invoke this scheme. Where application is already filed by the company for voluntary strike off, STK2, they can't go for use this scheme. So when the company is amalgamated under the scheme of compromise or arrangement, they can't use this. When the company is already filed an application, miscellaneous applications with the registrar for the classifying the company as a dormant company, they can't use this scheme. The vanishing company, if the company is classified as a vanishing company, they can't use. They can't use this scheme for filing form SH7. SH7 normally used to be filed for increasing the authorized share capital or subdivision or consolidation, whatever it is. So SH7 cannot be filed for under this scheme, CFSS scheme. As I said, so based on the declaration made in form CFSS, the immunity certificate will be generated, signed by the registrar. So that gives a protections from the prosecutions. are proceeding against the directors. And also, if the ROC shall withdraw any prosecution or proceeding or adjudication of penalties is pending with respect to the said offences concerned. So if an opportunity is available up to 30th September, maybe it may be get extended, but as on today, this opportunity is there. So as a professional, we need to advise and educate our clients. If any clients in the list of our company have not filed the balance sheets for the year ended 31st March 2019 or 18 or previous financial year, and if the company is an active company, then the belated returns, all these e-forms can be filed. All the e-forms can be filed without any additional fee. Without any additional fee, normal filing fee, it can be filed. But the scheme is not available for filing Form SH7 and also the MGT 14 for filing a resolution beyond 300 days. If MGT 7 actually has to be filed within 300 days, if beyond 300 days, the company has to go to the central government for continuation of delay. That's still in force. They can't use that MGT 14 beyond 300 days. But up to 300 days, the form can be filed in these cases. Apart from all other forms can be filed. AFSC 4, CFSS, MGT 7, 23, AC, all the forms can be filed under this scheme. So once these documents are done under this scheme, if they don't want to continue the company or they want to put on hold the company for some time when there is no business or the project, they can apply to the registrar to classify the company as a dormant company by filing Form MSC1. Or if they don't want to continue the company, they can close the company voluntarily when there is no liability or when there is no assets or liability by voluntarily by filing Form STK2 by filing the fee of rupees 10,000, so the company can be voluntarily strike up closed. We can save from the any prosecutions or penalties or deactivation of DIN or disqualification of directorship due to inactive companies. So that we need to take care. So when the promoter is having no intention to continue the business, then file the returns up to date, invoking the scheme, and immediately file the form STK2 to close the company when there is no assets and liabilities. So when the company having assets and liabilities, go voluntary winding up before NCLT, then wind up the companies. Or when the company wants to wait for some period of time, they don't have business at present, or they want to commence the business after 1 year or 2 years. So make an application to the registrar, request the registrar, classify the company as a dormant company. So that is, we can say, from all the prosecution and penalties. So this, with respect to this scheme is concerned, it is very useful for all the corporate, such all you that utilize this opportunity. It is available up to 30th September to file all belated filings, to complete the filings up to date, to save the company from the prosecution or any other consequences also that we can say with respect to this. The scheme is concerned. I hope you all already aware, but make note that it is available up to 30th September. It may get extended, but we have to invoke, act accordingly to comply these provisions. Then the other provisions with respect to, I would like to stress upon the recent times, due to these COVID times, meetings are allowed to conduct either board meeting or general meeting through video conference. So due to this situation, the pandemic COVID situation, though the board meetings earlier were there, the conduct may be conducted through video conference, but some subject cannot be conducted through video conference for the board meeting also. For the approval of annual accounts, approval of board of directors report, auditors report, the issue of prospectus, some business cannot be passed through video conference, even for a board meeting. Now everything is allowed for the company to conduct a board meeting through video conference. Now the general meeting also is being allowed to conduct the meeting through video conference. There are some provisions were inserted by way of notification and circular. I would like to highlight what are all the things we need to keep in mind for conducting the meeting through video conference in case of AGM or AGM. Earlier, the wait a minute, sir. So before that, I would like to highlight the same set of scheme available for LLP also. So like companies, LLP also the same set of provisions were introduced that the LLP also can file the related documents with the register of companies. So the defaulting LLP is allowed to file these forms, whatever the form 3. The form 3 used to be filed for filing the agreement, LLP agreement. Form 4 is changed. Form 8 is the statement, financial statement and annual return. These forms can be filed without any additional fees by invoking the scheme, as like the Fresh Start scheme available in the Companies Act 2019. The LLP settlement scheme 2020 is also available up to 30th September. So we can use this opportunity to file these forms, but only thing that only this form 24 is not available for the LLP is concerned. So we all that LLP is actually every day 100 rupees will be there for non-filing. So this scheme can be used. It is available up to 30th September. The same set of provisions are there. Whatever the form 3, 4, 8, 11 with respect to LLP is concerned can be filed up to 30th September without any additional fee. for the previous years of returns. So after 30th September, what is stated in the regulation is that with respect to fresh start scheme or the LLP settlement scheme, the register of companies is going to initiate action for defaulting companies. Those who have not filed their return as on 30th September 2020, the register of companies is going to take action against these companies that we need to take note. So apart from this, certain changes which brought in the Companies Act, I have to put in place that the time gap between two board meetings has been extended up to 180 days for the period up to 30th September. Due to this situation, actually, the board meeting has to be convened on once in 3 months. The time gap between two board meetings should not exceed 120 days. So that period has been allowed up to 30th September. So when the company is due for convening a board meeting from 1st April, so up to 30th September, the board can have the meeting. There will not be any non-compliance is concerned. The other one change is that we all know the CARO 2020 is put in place, but it is deferred for the financial year 2021, not for 1920. So CARO 2020 is not applicable for this financial year, that is 1920. It will be applicable from next financial year only, CARO 2020. So the CARO 2020 is enlarged version. A lot of responsibilities put in place for professionals to report with respect to companies concerned, like a company secretary certificate, like a chartered accountants audit, statutory auditors also needs to comment certain aspect with respect to compliance. The scope of audit has been enlarged in the CARO 2020, but that is deferred. It will be from next financial year only. The another important change is that in case of listed company or other company, independent directors meeting needs to be conducted separately to evaluate the performance of the executive or non-independent directors. So due to these situations, the condition has been relaxed that if there is no meeting of the independent director, it will not be considered as a violation. The other one is under the deposit repayment reserve, namely when the company accepting deposits from the public, they have to maintain liquid assets. That is 20% of the deposits matured during the financial year has to be deposited before 30th April. Before 30th April, they have to deposit the 20% of the amount of deposits matured during the financial year before 30th April. The time limit has been extended to 30th September. That is the change which have been put in place. And also for filing the Form 20A, that is declaration, the time is given for new companies for 1 year to file their declarations. And also the minimum residential requirement is extended. This will not be counted for this financial year. Some of the other changes which I would like to highlight is that in the company's amendment rules, the company's appointment and managerial personnel amendment rules 2020, we all know that every company should have a company secretary, listed company, and the other company, public company having capital more than 10 crore, and a private company which is specified under Rule 8A. Private company having paid up capital 5 crore or more should have a whole-time company secretary. Now that limit has been increased to 10 crore. So now the private limited company need not have a whole-time company secretary up to the capital of 10 crore. So up to 10 crore capital, the private limited company no need to have a whole-time company secretary. The other one important aspect is that secretarial audit. Apart from listed company, secretarial audit is compulsory for a public company having paid up capital 50 crore or turnover of more than 250 crore. Apart from both these conditions, new conditions were added in the rules that if the company is borrowing is more than 100 crore, so when the public company having borrowing more than 100 crore, that company is subject to secretarial audit. So what all the companies needs to conduct secretarial audit? One is listed company. The other one is material subsidiary of a listed company. One is listed company has to conduct a secretarial audit. Other one is if the company is a public company or a private company, which is material subsidiary of a listed company, that company has to conduct a secretarial audit under regulation 24A of the LODR. And also every public company having capital more than 50 crore or turnover more than 250 crore and borrowing more than 100 crore as per latest audited financial statement have to conduct secretarial audit under 204. The practicing company secretary have to conduct a secretarial audit. That report have to be filed with the shareholders as well as the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The other one important change with respect to financial statement with respect to NBFC, they have to follow the Ind AS and also file the AOC report. There is no much importance. Only it is for NBFC is concerned. With respect to incorporation, yeah, recent times, experience everyone might have experienced. Simplify பண்றோங்கிற பேர்ல வந்து காம்ப்ளிகேஷன் தான் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு with respect to incorporation is concerned. Earlier, the run is there for name as well as change of name. Now its run is available only for change of name. The application for reservation of name has to be filed only with the SPICE INC 32 only. So incorporation form also has been changed to INC 32 plus INC 35 Agile with the Agile Pro. INC apart from SPICE plus INC 32, INC 35. INC 35 is for the registration under GST, PF, PSI, bank account. All is now become the mandate. So one way is that all these certificate single window clearance or single window mechanisms. But other way around, there are a lot of practical difficulties also for a formation of company is concerned. So now the company formation is concerned. What is the change is here? The run is only for change of name. The SPICE plus is only for the approval or application for the name. Or we can file directly for incorporation of the company even without having the DIN. Directly we can file a form INC 32 with form INC 35, Agile Pro. Now the Agile Pro is a web form. It is a web form. In the web form, all the details have to be filled. Certain details are auto-filled. Some document, whatever the scanned document needs to be attached. Whatever the declarations, all needs to be attached. Consent, all needs to be attached. Then it can be filed. That is a change with respect to incorporation is concerned. This is, as I said earlier, the financial statement approval can be done through conducting video conference meeting. Earlier, it was only physical meeting. This needs to be approved. Now it can be done. And also the appointment of independent director. There is a slight change in the rule. See, if a person wants to be appointed as an independent director, he has to be enrolled in the database created by the NCA, Independent Directors Database. He select for 1 year or 5 years in the database. There is some fees are there. Apart from this, he has to qualify for the examinations unless if a person doesn't have the directorship experience in the listed company for a period of 10 years, they should undergo the objective type of examination. It's very simple only. He has to clear. The time period is given up to 1 year. Now, The change is that the, if the individual who has been appointed as an independent director in a company shall within a period of 10 months he has to make apply to the online for inclusion of his name in the database, either for 5 year or the 1 year. That is depends. So the period is 7 months, been extended up to 10 months. That is the change which is brought in the company's appointment of qualification of directors rules 2020. That so independent director has to enroll their name with a database maintained by the ministry, independent directorship database. The period is given for them is 7 months. Now it is been extended to 10 months. He can include his name either by 1 year or 5 years. The fees is different for 1 year and 5 year. After expiry of 1 year, again he can extend for another year. There is no restriction apart from this objective type of examination. That is for independent director. The other one change is that form GNL2. See, whatever documents to be filed with the register of companies. So now we are all aware that all forms are electronic form only. There is no manual form. So if any documents to be submitted before the registrar of companies, that has to be submitted only by filing form GNL2. And the another one change in the rule, the issue of sweat equity shares. So normally sweat equity shares issued to the directors or the employees for consideration other than cash for providing any technical know-how or any value addition or any intellectual properties to the company. So in case of startup companies, so generally the sweat equity shares, should not exceed 25% of the capital out of total capital. That is the provisions. But in case of startup companies who registered and avail the concession of startup companies, so they can issue sweat equity shares to the directors or employees, those who bring in technology or intellectual property or any value addition to the company up to 50% of the capital. And also the period is extended from 5 years to 10 years. It is only for a startup companies. To help the startup companies, these provisions are put in place that the startup companies can allot sweat equity shares up to 50% of the total paid up capital, and they can do up to 10 years from the date of incorporation. Up to 10 years, they can allot sweat equity shares. And also the compromise for arrangement. There is a small change in the rule in case of compromise or arrangement, the merger or amalgamation. In case of takeover of company, suppose if one company is taking over another company by having the majority of not less than 3/4. Suppose if the minority shareholders there in the company, there is a provisions that the minority shares can be purchased by the person who is going to take over the company. So there, some provision been inserted that the valuation has to be done and separate bank accounts should be opened, and at least one half of the amount what is to be settled to the other shareholders to in the separate account. That provisions were inserted. And this GDR, it is already there. The companies, the Indian companies now allowed freely can go to list the overseas stock exchange as a GDR. That is the provisions which is there. We can note down. The other one change is that we all aware that the provision is the little relaxed for DIN holders. If the DIN is deactivated due to non-filing of KYC, DAR3 KYC, now they can file. There is no additional fees. Up to 30th September, there will not be any additional fees for filing DAR3 KYC or web KYC. So active non-compliant, if a director, those who have not filed their KYC, they can file up to 30th September without any additional fees. Otherwise, the fee is 5,000 or 10,000 respectively in case of web part, the other DR3 KYC. Yeah, this is what I was earlier. I was trying to search. So maybe there is a slide missed in this portion. So there's one important thing which, as a professionals, are we have to see how to conduct AGM through video conference. What are all the terms and conditions to be satisfied for conducting meeting through video conference? So board meeting, we are well aware that the board meeting can be conducted through VC. It can be through WebEx or Zoom or Google Meet or whatever the platform available. The meeting can be conducted subject to advance notice has been given to all directors. The meeting link has to be given to them. There should be a facility given to participate the directors. There is a help facility should be there to participate the directors. And the entire meeting has to be recorded. It has to be kept in a record. It's a permanent record. The minutes have to be recorded accordingly. The resolution can be put in place for the passing. These are all there. Board meeting, it was there. So the general meeting earlier is not allowed to conduct meeting through VC. Now it is allowed. Earlier it was allowed. EGM can be conducted. Now it has been extended to AGM also. But only thing, the condition is that either AGM or EGM can be conducted through VC. In the AGM, all ordinary business. Ordinary business means the approval of accounts, the directors liable to the rotation, appointment of auditors, all can be done in the AGM. In the EGM, if any special business which are considered to be unavoidable, so any urgent necessity only the Act allows to call for a shareholders meeting. Unavoidable nature. What is unavoidable nature? It is the discretion of the board to decide based on the necessity and urgency. Now we will see the procedure for conducting AGM or EGM through VC. When the companies are required to provide facility of e-voting, there is a separate provisions. When the companies are not required to provide e-voting facility, what are all the companies have to provide e-voting facility? All the listed companies have to provide e-voting facilities. And when the company having more than 1,000 shareholders, they have to provide the facility for e-voting. So the other companies no need to provide e-voting, but the meeting can be conducted through VC. Let us see, when the company needs to conduct an AGM through VC and if the company is mandatorily to require to provide e-voting facility, what are the things to be complied? The notice of AGM has to be dispatched through members by email, registered with the company or depository participant. So the notice of AGM has to be sent by mail through all shareholders, attaching annual report, entire balance sheet, financial statement, including standalone consolidated balance sheet, board's report, auditor's report, and such other documents needs to be sent to all the shareholders, members, trustees, debenture holders, preference shareholders, directors, auditors who are all eligible to receive AGM notice. The mail have to be sent. Second thing, while sending the notice, before sending the notice of AGM, the copies of financial statement to the members, a public announcement to be made in a newspaper, one in English as well as the regional language newspaper, in which the registered office of the district in which the registered office of the company is situated, that the AGM or AGM is convened through video conference. That information has to be published in the newspaper before sending notice or the financial statement to the shareholders. The public notice should contain the statement of the AGM convened through AGM, VC or other audio visual means, the date and time of the AGM. The notice of AGM has to be posted in the company website prominently. The information about the posting, the notice in the website has to be specified in the advertisement, and also the intimation has to be given to the stock exchange. And the members who are holding shares in physical form and those who have not their registered email address, they can cast their vote remote e-voting or through e-voting during the meeting. Suppose if a shareholder comes to the meeting through VC, if they have not casted their vote through e-voting, they should be allowed to cast their vote during the meeting. And how to register their email address with the instruction to register their email ID with the DPs. Mandate that bank accounts, in case of any change in bank account, for if the company declares dividend, the details and the information should be there in the public announcement that how a person can join the meeting, how can participate in the meeting, the instruction for participation in the meeting, and the contact detail or helpline numbers of the company secretary or compliance officer or any person or the registrar or transfer agent who can assist the members for joining the meeting. That has to be specified in the advertisement. And the minutes that the proceedings of the meeting has to be recorded and it has to be kept in the safe custody. It is a permanent record. And the script of the meeting has to be uploaded in the company website of the company immediately. And the time zone has to be considered if the shareholders from different time zone. The convenience needs to be considered by the board. The meeting can be conducted through any platform, either WebEx or any teleconference through Zoom or Google Meet, whatever the platforms available, but the facility should be there. And the participants should be allowed to post a questions or while giving advertisement itself, if the shareholders wants to raise any question, they can write their question to so-and-so email ID. That is the case where the chairman of the general meeting can explain the questions received by email. So otherwise, if all the shareholders start asking the questions, it will be very difficult to convene the meeting, particularly when the company having more than the 100 shareholders or 500 or 1000 or 10,000 or whatever, maybe it's very difficult. So the company can insist the members to put a question in advance if there is any question. And the facility, the VC facility at least should have the accommodate 1000 members to participate on first come first served basis. It is minimum. So at least the company should accommodate minimum 1000 participants in the meeting through VC on first come first served basis. So the restriction for first come first served basis is not applicable to shareholders holding more than 2%, promoters, institutional investors, directors, KMP, chairperson of the audit committee or nomination or remuneration committee, auditors. So these persons are not comes under the category first come first served basis. Anytime they can join. The facility will be because the email ID of these respective persons will be marked there to allow these persons. And also the meeting shall kept open at least 15 minutes before the time scheduled. And it has to be closed till the expiry of 15 minutes after the scheduled time. So until then, the person should be allowed for the meeting on first come, first served basis. And also, the person who presents through video conference shall be counted for the purpose of quorum. For the purpose of quorum, person who presents through VC can be counted, and the members who present in the meeting shall be allowed to vote in the meeting. Suppose if a person has not casted their vote, e-voting, because as usual earlier, the e-voting has to be kept open. If a person has not casted their vote through e-voting, then the e-voting should be allowed at the time of meeting. If number of members is less than 50, then maybe the voting can be conducted by the chairman by show of hands, but it is very difficult through VC. But the members, those who participate in the meeting, should be allowed to vote by e-voting. So scrutinizers was appointed by the chairman. His duty is to verify both the votes. Vote casted through remote e-voting, vote casted during the meeting, then he will consolidate and combine, then he will submit the report to the chairman. So while considering this, the scrutinizer has to exclude if a person voted in the meeting, if he already cast their vote in the e-voting and who is being barred for e-voting can be excluded by the scrutinizers. The chairman for the meeting shall be, if the company is having chairman, he can chair the meeting. Otherwise, the chairman can be elected in accordance with the provisions. So the proxies are not allowed for the VC meeting. Earlier, in case of in-person meeting, the proxy can attend on behalf of the members. In the video conference meeting, proxy is not available. Proxy cannot attend the meeting. He can attend as a person as in others, but he can't vote or raise voice in the meeting. So proxy is not available at the meeting because it is the VC shareholder. Anytime he can convene, he can join the meeting, and there is no necessity for a proxy to be there in the meeting. And also in the meeting, at least one independent director. When the company is required to appoint independent director, at least one independent directors, particularly the audit committee chairman. Audit committee chairman should be there in the annual general meeting, and auditor, statutory auditor of the company or his representative, who is qualified to be an auditor, shall attend the meeting through VC or other audio visual means. So the company shall encourage the institutional investor who are the members of the company to attend vote at the meeting in priority. So all the resolutions which is passed has to be filed with the registrar. Confidentiality has to be maintained. As I said, the recordings has to be kept in separate custody under the chairman or company secretary. So these compliances with respect to conducting video conference, we need to kept in mind apart from the regular process. So when the company is not required to provide the e-voting facility, other than the listed company or other than the company having less than 1,000 shareholders, so they can conduct a meeting through VC. There may be a question whether the company can call for in-person meeting instead of going for a VC. The circular says if the board of directors have an approval from the authority to have a meeting, in-person meeting, they can have the meeting. Even they can have the in-person meeting as well as the meeting through VC. The both votes can be counted. The both the voting can be allowed. One is the e-voting, the person who is participating through VC. The other one is the person who is in presence through in-person by circulating the ballot paper. The scrutinizer has to collect all these ballot papers as well as the e-voting at the venue. E-voting, then the scrutinizer can consolidate all these three votes. We can submit a report to the chairman. But subject to that, the board should have the permission from the authorities to have the meeting, in-person meeting. With the maybe the authorities will give a permissions with respect, particularly with respect to considering the number of members, maintaining social distance, facilities, all will be considered. So that is the case. The venue can be mentioned in the notice. Otherwise, the venue will be deemed venue, will be the registered office or some other place there can be. So if the meeting is convened through VC, what is the venue of the meeting for the purpose of the general meeting is that the venue will be deemed venue. Suppose if the company or the board has got the permissions from the local authorities to have the in-person meeting, maybe they can have the venue as the meeting. In case of other company, at least 50% of the shareholders should have their email ID and registered their email ID with the company. Then only the company can go for a VC. So the other company, if they wants to have a annual general meeting or general meeting through VC, at least 50% of the members have to register their email ID with the company. Otherwise, the company has to take steps to inform the member, get their email ID registered with the company, inform the member about their registration of their email ID. And out of the members who represent in value should not be less than 75% should have their email ID with the company. Then only the company can conduct the AGM or EGM through VC. In case of Nidhi company, who holds shares more than 1,000 in face value or more than 1% of the paid up capital, whichever is less, the meeting can be conducted. So, in case a person who has the right to exercise not less than 70% of the voting right, when the poll is demanded, the poll can be taken by the chairman. Suppose if poll is demanded, the shareholders can cast their vote by through email, their registered email. Then the results can be announced. Or if the mail comes from any other email ID which is not registered with the company, the vote will not be counted for the meeting. And also the company has to take, as I said, the email ID has to be registered. The notice has to be sent to all shareholders. There is no need for a public announcement, unlike in the case of a listed company, or the company needs to provide e-voting facility. But the notice as well as financial statement has to be sent to all the shareholders by mail. The company should have all the shareholders' mail ID registered with the company. The information about the instruction for joining the meeting and helpline members or the members of the directors or managing director or company secretary number to assist the shareholders to join for a meeting. The financials report along with the notice, annual report, standalone consolidated, board report, audited report, all needs to be sent to only through mail. And the facilities should be kept open. The meeting, the admit for the meeting should be open at least 15 minutes before the meeting and also 15 minutes after the meeting has to be kept open. The members present in the VC can be counted for a quorum. So the company has to ensure that there should be a two-way communication, teleconferencing or WebEx for ease of participation of the members. Members should be allowed to ask question. The answer has to be given to the shareholders' question, unless if the shareholders are requested to give their question in advance by mail. The questions, whatever the questions put by mail, the chairman can consider these questions. Otherwise, it is free up to the chairman discretion to decide in this aspect is concerned. And also the company should have earlier, as we discussed, that the facility should be at least they should accommodate 1,000 members in case of listed company, or the company has to provide e-voting facility. They should have the facility of platform, voting platform should be to accommodate at least 1,000. In this case, only at least 500 members should be accommodated. The person holding more than 2% or promoter or KNP or auditors of statutory auditors, audit committee chairman or NRC committee chairmen may be allowed without any restrictions. Again, it's the election of chairman, the same set of provisions. Independent directors should be present. Proxies are not allowed for this VC. Institutional investors should have the priority. The poll has to be taken. It is the case where the poll has to be taken. If there is any poll demanded, then the poll can be taken. So this is what the some provisions with respect to the conducting meeting through VC. Maybe all we might have, we should note and take note. There is a detailed guideline been issued by the ministry in this aspect. You can anytime you can refer this guideline and accordingly to follow this process with respect to conducting AGM or EGM. So finally, I would like to say some highlights of the company's amendment bill 2020 also. This has been put in before the Lok Sabha, but it will take time to be an act because a lot of debates and discussion will take place. Even a lot of objections from the opposition that bill has to go to the standing committee for their approval. Now this bill has been passed on to the standing committee. It is under the purview of standing committee will take time, but still, what I would like to highlight is the Companies Bill, Amendment Bill 2020 is having again decriminalization of offences. Lot of offences are decriminalized in 2019 Amendment Act itself. Still, they are going further for decriminalizing the offence to enable the company for ease of doing business. That is what the ministry says. And certain powers has been given to the central government, particularly with the regional directors has been empowered with a lot of powers to take decisions, approvals. Powers for the central governments are delegated to the regional directors, and also the jurisdiction of the court based on the offences is going to be reclassified. And also the provisions with respect to producer companies, whatever the provisions there in the Companies Act 1956, that all going to be incorporated in the Companies Amendment Bill 2020. The same set of provisions, there is no change. And also there is a additional bench for National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. Now the NCLT is sitting only in Delhi. So a lot of difficulties and in the other parts of the country for filing the cases, appearing before the cases, a lot of traveling, so many things considering the fact the benches is going to be set up in other places already. The Chennai is selected for having the NCLAT benches. Already the process has been initiated, the place has been identified, and the process is in place to have the NCLAT. And also the provisions to rationalize the remuneration to non-executive director. So there is a provisions for the executive directors in the Companies Act 2013. There is no the enough provisions to pay and or accommodate the remuneration to non-executive directors when the company doesn't have a profit or inadequate profit under Schedule 5. Now the provision has been dealt in detail in the Companies Amendment Bill 2020. Some provisions were relaxed, as I said, additional relaxation with respect to additional fees. Some exemptions were given. Some companies are allowed to list their shares in the other outside the jurisdiction of India, and the CSR up to 50 lakhs rupees. The companies recruit to spend amount up to 50 lakhs for CSR. There is no need to form a CSR committee. That is the recommendation. That is the draft in the bill. And as I said earlier, if the company is having amount already spent excess, the company is allowed to set off in the current financial year against if the companies has spent excess amount in CSR, that can be allowed to set off against the current or subsequent financial year. That has been little relaxation is going to be provided. But these are all, please make note that it is a bill in the Companies Amendment Bill 2020. It takes long time to become an act. We are all aware that how will to be an act. Otherwise, anytime the government will comes up with ordinance. Now we are all seeing most of the amendment. The company wants to make amendment immediately, then they will put in by way of ordinance. Ordinance is always possible when the parliaments are not in session. Anytime the government is having a power under the constitution to put in place an ordinance, maybe we can expect some ordinance also in this aspect is concerned. So I hope so far I have tried to explain the recent changes with respect to the Companies Amendment Act 2019 as well as the various amendment rules, notification and circulars. I have not covered the winding up rules since having another hour's time to discuss. I have kept apart the winding up rules. Apart from more or less, I have covered everything. So if you have any question, I can able to take. Or I have if you have any questions, you can send it to me also. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope maybe just a recollection of certain provision in the Companies Act. I hope maybe I would like to have your feedback and questions. Over to Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Our
sir.
speaker has covered. I think the act is changed. Amendments are made into the length and breadth of the act, sir. Almost from section 2 to the latest act, and video conferencing is also, you have made a special notes on video conferencing, sir. I have a doubt whether it is compulsory to conduct through video conferencing or physical mode can be conducted, sir.
So that is what I said, sir. It is not compulsory. If you
Yes,
want to conduct physically, you have to get a permission from the local authorities, sir. Because
But that will not be available, sir. In even in Tirupur, we cannot conduct a physical meeting, and company is not having 50% of the shareholders' email ID. Then what will be the solution to the company, sir?
Solution that the company has to get their email ID.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Company has to identify the shareholders and get their email ID registered. Ask them to register with the company by sending a mail or a letter. Then the company has to proceed for convening the meeting, sir.
If the shareholders didn't responded, what to do for sending email, sir?
So that will be more remote only, no, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There might be, because that is what at least 50% of the shareholders, at least 50%.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Is the company having more than 50% without having the traceable person, sir? I don't think so.
Yes. Yes,
I
sir.
don't think so. More than 50% of the shareholders
Yeah.
not traceable இருக்க முடியாது கண்டிப்பா இல்லைங்களா?
Yes, sir.
5% 10% இருக்கலாம். அதுவும் வந்து கம்மியா தான் இருக்கணும்.
ஆமாங்க.
இந்த கேஸ்ல
ஆமாங்க.
there is no need. அந்த கேஸ் நார்மலி ப்ரொமோட்டர்ஸ் வந்து கண்டிப்பா more than 60% இருப்பாங்க, அவங்க கையில இருக்கும்.
ஆமாங்க.
பேலன்ஸ் மேபி ஒரு 10% அந்த மாதிரி கேசஸ்ல ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் இருக்கும். there are practical difficulties இருக்கலாம். மேபி 1 or 2 cases மேபி ஓல்ட் கம்பெனிஸ்ல இருக்கலாம். பட் அது we need to do.
Sir, we have one question from our member, sir. Whether Form 20A is applicable to all companies or company incorporated in June 2019. What is the time limit? Is it after making payment of subscribed money or date of incorporation? Form 20A.
Sir, 20A வந்து 2/11/2018 ல இருந்து applicable தான்.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. அப்ப June 19 ல incorporate பண்ணா ஃபைல் பண்ணணும்.
ஆமா. அதுக்கப்புறம் என்ன கம்பெனி இன்கார்பரேஷன் பண்ணாலும் ஃபார்ம் 20A ஃபைல் பண்ணணும். அது எப்போ ஃபைல் பண்ணணும்னா 20A has to be filed upon receipt of funds by the company.
Yes, sir.
ஃபண்ட் எப்போ கம்பெனி சப்ஸ்கிரைபர்ஸ் கொண்டு வரணும், அந்த 180 டேஸ்க்குள்ள சப்ஸ்கிரைபர்ஸ் வந்து ஒரு அக்கௌண்ட் ஓப்பன், அந்த கம்பெனி இன்கார்பரேஷன் ஆன உடனே அந்த கம்பெனிக்கு ஒரு அக்கௌண்ட் ஓப்பன் பண்ணி அந்த அக்கௌண்ட்ல 180 டேஸ்க்குள்ள அந்த அமௌண்ட்டை போட்டுடணும். So the form also has to be filed within 180 days.
Yes, sir.
So அப்ப நம்ம filing வந்து any company incorporated from November 2018, this 20A has to be filed. It is compulsory for all company. சரிங்களா?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
அதே டவுட் இருக்குல்ல, கிளாரிஃபை ஆயிடுச்சுங்களா சார்?
என்ன क्वेश्चंस இருக்காது?
டவுட் இருக்குங்களா சார் அதுல?
இல்ல, clear sir.
sir.
I think yeah, is clarified, sir.
Okay.
Members, any other questions?
Hello.
Please.
Hello, is it audible?
Audible, sir. Audible, சொல்லுங்க.
Sir, actually, the appointment of company secretary, full-time company secretary, the limit for paid up capital is 5 crores. Originally it was 5 crores and afterwards it was enhanced to 10 crores. Even though it is a welcome issue, practically the company secretaries are not available. Even we have inquired the company ICSA also, but we could not get full-time company secretary for employment. In such scenario, can I do like this? Of course, I advise my company who is not able to appoint a full-time company secretary to voluntarily go for a company secretary audit and let it be done by a company practicing company secretary, and you can get a certificate from him that stating that all the compliances have been met out. In case if any, meanwhile, just we have made an advertisement also in local newspapers and for proving that we have been seeking for the company secretary. Okay. So is it sufficient for us in case of any action is taken on us for non-compliance of that?
Sir, in the aspect of the point on the legal point is very clear that considering this practical difficulty only, the limit has been increased from 5 crore to 10 crore. Lot of companies are coming out of this purview because the government is having statistics. How many company secretaries are available? How many companies having more than 10 crore capital? So it is there within the limit only. The match and match is there, then only they are allowed. They fix the capital to 10 crore. That is one point. Naturally, the company has to comply the provisions. 203 has to be complied when the company having capital more than 10 crore in case of company, private or public, has to have the all-time company secretary. Suppose what you said that if there is a non-compliance, if there is a notice from the register of companies about the non-compliance, then the adjudications will be with the register of companies. It is a discretion with the register of companies. So when you have this kind of evidences for supporting non-compliances for advertisement or getting the voluntary secretarial audit, filing the audit report with MCA, will all the substantiate or support your non-compliance is not due to willful. It's a discretion of the registrar to take a call on this aspect. But it is, as he said, it is purely on the discretion of the registrar. It will not protect you as legally. These initiatives taken by you will not protect, but it will protect subject to discretion or decision of the register of companies who is handling the case, the adjudication. It is what my opinion. சரிங்களா சார்?
சார் மெம்பர் வேற ஏதாவது கொஸ்டின்ஸ் இருக்குங்க?